All right. Welcome, everybody. Happy Easter. This is a special anniversary edition of Rev War Revelry, where we're going to be just summing up, talking about what's going on in the emerging Revolutionary War world. If you are watching this, hopefully you've been following a lot of the content we've been putting out over the past couple years. The blog has been going strong now for about 7 years. And this is the 2-year anniversary of when we started doing these kind of Zoom talks. Of course, this was right the early stages of the pandemic, and we were kind of forced to do a virtual type events. And it turned out to be a great program where over the past couple of years, first weekly and then bi-weekly, we've been coming to you live Sunday evenings, bringing you some information and content from different historians and different public sites all across the country, covering everything, and all across the world, actually, because a couple weeks ago we actually had a gentleman from Ireland on. So, we've been talking about all sorts of things about the Revolutionary War for the past couple years. Of course, I'm Mark Malloy. I'm being joined tonight by Billy Griffith and Dan Welch. And we got 3 others who are en route. They had a little technical difficulties, but there'll be a box popping up on your screen here shortly. And that will be Phil Greenwalt, Rob Orison, and Kevin Pollock, who are all enjoying celebratory cigars and beers in honor of this. But we figured this would be a kind of neat opportunity to talk about kind of some of the stuff we've done, and more importantly, kind of some of the stuff we got coming up. And we can go ahead and, I'm looking right now at Billy's background. If you want to maybe kick us off and talk to us a little bit about some of the really neat emerging Revolutionary War. Oh, hang on.
Let's wait for them.
Looks like
we're here.
3 amigos have arrived.
I don't know about that, Dan, but we'll take it.
All right. Do we want to catch them up?
Yep. Yeah. So, like I told them, our audience who's watching, this is our celebration of 2 years of doing these virtual Zoom talks, and that we're just gonna catch people up with some of the stuff we've done and some of the stuff we got coming up. Anybody there on the back porch? You guys are celebrating. What do you all have to say?
No, I was going to say, I think it was 2 years ago we were in lockdown, and a few of us decided we should do something like this every week. Started April 19th with our friends in Lexington talking about the events up there on Patriots Day. And then once things started to reopen, we realized every week was a little bit crazy. And so we went to every other week, but 2 years has gone by pretty fast. And we've done everything from just sitting around talking and drinking and then doing movie reviews and watching Mark and Phil trace over Baltimore and Charleston this weekend. So hopefully it's been a good mix of just history, talking to authors, and trying to highlight some of these historic sites that tell this great history.
Yeah, and I encourage people who are watching this, drop in the comment section any questions you got. We already got one great question, which is, where do we get the name? Where does the name Emerging Revolutionary War come from?
So the Emerging Revolutionary War, and that official title is Emerging Revolutionary War Era. So that way we could actually cover things like the French and Indian War, War of 1812, and everything in between. We kind of initially started as an offshoot of the emerging Civil War, which was started on a back porch at Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania National Military Park by a few Chris's and a guy named Jake. And so they wanted to merge people into the Civil War. It was a success, so they wanted to start. Ted Savas of Savas Beatties asked us to look at a different war, and so 1 year after a very successful Civil War symposium in Spotsylvania, they asked for people that wanted to co-lead, or so we asked people to create a Rev War blog. And I think Rob and I either weren't paying attention completely or wanted to keep it in the family. And so we volunteered to start doing a Rev War Wednesday. And then we created a blog, I think in 2016, Emerging Revolutionary War Era. So basically, it's because of the brand of Emerging Civil War to tie us in. That way we could, I would say borrow, but try to steal some of the historians like Kevin from Pollack from the Emerging Civil War era. It'd be easier if we kept it in the family. So that's where the name Emerging has come from. It's our goal still is to try to merge people into the interest and enthusiasm of the war, or also find newer voices or voices that need or want to be heard more, like Billy Griffith, Eric Sterner, and other ones who have now had a chance to blog and have books in the pipeline. So that's where Emerging came from.
Yeah, no, and I'll just add on to that. Yeah, I think it's being familiar with emerging Civil War and then wanting to really get involved with emerging Revolutionary War. Yeah, the emerging part of the name refers to both the audience of people who maybe this is their first time kind of getting into the Revolutionary War. We make it very accessible, so it's not too deep into specifics or details that it would drive away some, we want to drive people to, those more in-depth academic studies, but, kind of giving them an entryway to that. But then also, yeah, it's two ways. It's for the audience, but it's also for us, the authors. Before I was able to start blogging with Emerging Revolutionary War, as a public historian, not as an academic historian, there aren't as many avenues to find creative outlets where you can write and do presentations and things like that. And this has offered a great opportunity for that. And I'll just also tie in, we started as a blog, as Phil said in 2016. We've been doing these for 2 years. And now we also have, YouTube channel, podcast, and all sorts of things. So the brand really has grown quite a lot over the past few years. And it's been, it's a lot of fun, I think. So.
I was going to say, I think you touched on it right there, Mark. This is something everyone on this call, and there's many others that are involved that aren't here tonight. We all have full-time jobs. And some of us have families. I'm looking at my buddy Mark here with a young son at home, and I got 2 little ones at home. And everyone has lots of going on in their lives and lots of things at work. So this is a way for us to kind of do something for fun while we drink and maybe smoke a cigar and try to have a good time while we do this. I think it's a way for us to share how much fun we have doing it. So
Chance to get together. It was a chance during the pandemic. Emerging to still do this while we were in close proximity. But basically, it was all built up because we want to merge people that Emerging Rev War will be the home for the Rev War 250.
as Mark Malloy likes to say all the time.
So that was the goal. The end game, we were playing the long game here, and that was to merge people into the Rev War 250.
Yeah. Part is that, we all fell in love with not just the history, but the sites, being in the place where the history happens. That's one of the things I love about what we do is that, in fact, I have a book talk coming up this weekend up in Delaware, and they were asking some questions about what the Emerging Revolutionary War books do. And I think a huge part of it is not just telling the amazing story, but also relating to the places where they're placed. Because there's nothing that's going to teach you more than being in the place where history happened.
I remember being interviewed when we first started the blog, or doing something for Sabbath Spade, one of them, and they were like, "What's the point of emerging? Why is you're interested in getting people off of these sites? Everything is maybe people drive 95 or whatever interstate roadway you want to name, and they see just a brown sign in a field. Why do we preserve this? Why is there a monument? Why is this land saved?" We have a lot of good buddies with the American Battlefield Trust who's doing great things to preserve property all around, and we just want people to know that those fields actually are hallowed ground. It means something, and the best way to do that is to merge people into what that history is and make it relevant to them.
What's Dan or Billy have to think or say?
Yeah, I think Phil, you're right on the money, and I think coming from the Civil War field, one of the great things about Emerging Revolutionary War is, for me as a Civil War historian, first, it really became Revolutionary War history kind of became a gateway to ERW. And one of the things that Phil just touched on was, a lot of folks know Civil War battlefields, even if they're casually interested in history. A lot of folks, as they drive down those roads, they see those brown signs for some battles that they may have heard of. And the American Revolution doesn't get that spotlight as much in the world of the general public, and getting folks to really consider the American Revolution as we're approaching the 250th, which they'll be able to join Emerging Revolutionary War with ERW for the 250th, the official home. I think it's been a great opportunity for everyone interested in Rev War history.
Dan,
Yeah.
hold on, Dan. You're supposed to be outside in the snow right now.
It is so, listen, it is so cold here in Northeast.
In Northeast Ohio.
We want the snow.
And meanwhile, we're going to take a break to go get
Ice cream truck just pulled up.
Yeah.
So,
It is so cold here. It has snowed off and on here today in Northeast Ohio. We're supposed to get some more snow tomorrow. I held out hope. I had my official Liberty Cigars George Washington cigar ready to roll, but it is freezing.
well done.
No execution. No
We
execution.
need to thank John and Ellen Adams, Liberty
Yep.
Cigar. You guys watching, enjoy a cigar here, there. Visit Liberty Cigar Company. They have some excellent cigars. Most of them are themed into the early American Republic. They're good people. They're going to be on with us in May. So if you happen to enjoy a cigar, I would highly recommend them. They are a mom and pop operation and super nice. So thanks, Dan, for that plug. I forgot to do that earlier.
No problem.
And just to jump on to what Dan just mentioned about this, because growing up in Virginia, it was like, people, when they talk about Gettysburg, they talk about going to the place, and everybody talks about going on family vacations to Gettysburg. They talk about, or Antietam, and a lot of these sites have become synonymous with the Civil War history. And I remember when I was writing Victory or Death about Trenton and Princeton, someone asked me, why are you writing, this story's been told many, many times. And I said, yes, it has been told, but it hasn't been told tied to the place. So growing up and going to Mount Vernon, I would learn about Washington crossing the Delaware, or I'd see the painting, but nobody actually, said like, well, you can go to where he actually did that. You can walk where they actually walk. You can, and you can go to travel to Revolutionary War battlefields in that same similar way. And I think that's what, I see our group as really helping to promote is getting people out to battlefields and hopefully, treat them like they would with a Civil War battlefield. And the thing I like about Revolutionary War battlefields is usually they're smaller too. So a lot of times they seem a lot more intimate too, which can also make them more, kind of harrowing when you think about how close people were and kind of the hand-to-hand combat that often occurred on Revolutionary War battlefields.
And I think that's become a very, very important highlight of each one of the ERW books that have come out is connecting every part of those books with an actual site, with an actual location that you can go and you can stand there in that spot, in that moment that, you've just learned about. For Rev War historians, battles like Monmouth, battles like Trenton and Princeton are really big touchstones in the historiography. But for a lot of folks, going to the Monmouth battlefield or going to the streets of Trenton, which, in the 21st century can be a challenge at times. But it's just a great way to.
What do you mean, Dan?
Listen, I don't want to give Trenton any shade, but as a native Youngstowner, if you know anything about Youngstown, Ohio, Trenton made me, sometimes a little nervous. It's like trying to go to Baltimore. Some of our group go to Baltimore.
Stay this weekend. Just got back from there about an hour ago.
Yeah, how did the visit go, Billy?
Oh, well, last night was fantastic. I was riding a high, and after today's loss to the Orioles for the Yankees, I was almost debating just coming home and turning off the lights and going to bed rather than doing this.
But I'm just gonna hop on to what Dan just said too. And he mentioned, the streets of Trenton or whatever. One of the things that I think is great that we're doing as well is not just blogging about it, not just doing Zooms about it, not just writing about it or talking about it. We're actually taking people there, and that was this past year. We had our first inaugural Emerging Revolutionary War bus tour, which I thought was a fantastic success. And I think everybody had a great time, and it was neat to actually share, this passion with people in person, which obviously, it took a while for COVID, kind of threw a giant wrench into everything. But I'm very excited about that, and excited about, our upcoming tour where you can actually, join us in person, to be able to go on a bus, to be able to go to these sites and spend a whole weekend with us, if that's your kind of thing, which, like I said, I thought it was just a fantastic time. So looking forward to this year's.
Well,
Yeah, and I think that's,
there you go,
I was going
Bill.
to say, I think that's a good kind of lead into what really this whole next, when's the bus tour in November? How many months do we have until then? Like 7 months, 6 months? Yeah, so pretty much for the rest of the year until then, I think one of the main focuses is really going to be highlighting, the Battle of Monmouth and Valley Forge, and that campaign that really a lot of historians, and myself included, consider as really the birth of the American Army, which we call our tour the Rise of the American Army as the theme for it. But I know starting next or in June, we're going to be out there at Monmouth Battlefield State Park for the anniversary, doing live videos for you, bringing you right there to the site, describing the actions as they were taking place. What's that going to be, 100 or 250, not good with math, 56 years ago, like that?
246.
46, yeah, there we go.
That's why we do history, but don't worry
That's
about
why we do history, yeah. I only had to take one algebra class in all of college.
it.
But yeah, so we'll be doing that. And then also before that, on June 26th, we'll be having a special ERW Zoom that Sunday night, just discussing the Battle of Monmouth. Then come August, we're going to be bringing on Dr. Mark Edward Lender, which is going to be really exciting because he's the co-author of the book Fatal Sunday. If you don't know what that is, that's by far the definitive study on the Monmouth campaign and the Battle of Monmouth. He's also the author of his newest book, The Conway Cabal. So for that Zoom, we're going to be discussing the Conway Cabal and kind of the politics on the road leading up to Monmouth, the consequences of those politics, and how George Washington really kind of spits in the face of all his adversaries and emerges as really the untouchable of the revolution after that. And then come the bus tour, that's where it's all going to culminate, where we're actually going to take you on the road from Valley Forge, following the Continental Army all the way to its date with destiny with Henry Clinton's British Army right outside of Freehold, New Jersey. We're going to do a full day tour of Monmouth Battlefield, and then also a half day tour of Valley Forge.
And let me, and I'll jump in. Let me do a plug. I know April 19th, 2 days from now, there's momentous events that start the American Revolution, turning from protests to actual shots being fired.
There's a great book.
Great book, Single
that.
Blow. So there's one segue into that. Single Blow, part of the Emerging Revolutionary War series. But click over to the Emerging Revolutionary War blog on Monday night, because I will have a link posted, because on Tuesday night, Valley Forge Park Alliance, who does a lot of the official, I think, park partner of Valley Forge National Historical Park, is going to have yours truly on to talk about an aspect of the Valley Forge campaign as part of their lecture series. So we're going to talk about actually the transformation of the American Army in May of 1778, which there's a small little engagement called the Battle of Baron Hill. And it actually it's a microcosm of a larger picture of what happened during the camp, or during the winter encampment, and then how the American Army will be shaped in Monmouth. So it's a free online event at 7 p.m. I'll have the link posted on our blog and Facebook site. So April 19th, I mean, you're already going to be thinking about the American Revolution, because it is the anniversary of the shot heard around the world. But which segue as well is, it was on that hillside outside of Concord that the American Army officially is probably born, when they follow Carl Barrett. They have an organized structure. The militia's there. They come down the hill. They take their first casualties, but they're under orders and then 3 years later, a little over 3 years later, 2,000 will march out onto the Marquis de Lafayette, Colonel Daniel Morgan, and we'll take a position and fight a small engagement on May 19th and 20th, 1778. So feel free to check that out, but it'll start the promotion of our bus tours. Billy is skipping the screen there so we can get a picture of George Washington.
Turning the light on.
Oh, there he is. Billy's back. So Valley Forge and Monmouth literally turned the lights on for the American Army. So
Well played. Yeah, well played. Well played.
every once in a while I find a jewel.
Well, I'll use the mention too of the first shot the revolution while I was down in Charleston, South Carolina this past week, working on my project for one of the next books in the Emerging Revolutionary War series. Is finding the site of the last death of the Revolutionary War, which is a minor engagement on Dill's Bluff on James Island in South Carolina, where a Marylander actually was one of the last men to die in the Revolutionary War in November of 1782. Just before the British finally left. But it's kind of some of those small little engagements, some of those little facts that you learn along the pathway that makes it really fascinating and interesting to keep digging and finding different sites associated with the revolution.
So I wonder then, Mark, you talk about all these different stories. There's so many from the larger picture, such as, strategery, right? Jeez, oh man. Strategy and tactics and battles to people. We've had such a awesome audience over the last 2 years joining us on Sunday evenings. Some amazing questions have come in. We've been able to, share some of those stories. What do folks want to hear from us as the historians from ERW? What haven't we covered? What do you want to hear more about on a Sunday night revelry?
Well, we got a great question in the comments. Where will the 2023 tour be?
North America.
We're going south. We're not sure where exactly, but we're going south.
Yeah.
Last year was Jersey, PA and Jersey. This year's Jersey. Billy is extremely happy we've been in Jersey, but yeah, Pennsylvania too. But we're going south. So somewhere in the southern campaign.
There might be a hint there, south. There might be a hint.
We'll know by September. We'll have it set up by September where we're going in 2023.
So that way,
Probably
2022, you can get your early bird pricing for 2023. So that's why you should go to this one.
And actually, I will say really quick too, jump on what Billy just said, but the tour, we have 14 tickets left. So go on our blog. There's a link at the top of the page for the ticket link. It's a 58 passenger bus. We have all the seats filled up, but 14, which is really good considering we're a few months away, actually, 6 months away. So sign up. It's a good time. It's fun. And, even if you don't like history, you can make fun of us while you're there because we're pretty good we're gluttons for punishment.
Something will happen worthy of humor.
Yeah, something will happen worthy of humor. Last year it was me. Next year we'll see what happens. We won't get into that. But this year,
jokes, right?
This year will be something different. But Dan, I want to take over from Mark for a brief second. But I think it'd be cool for us to go around and talk about our favorite chats this past year, or ones that you all enjoyed the most. And it can't be ones that you did.
Right.
So I think that that's kind of a good thing for us to think about. Mark, you want to go first?
Oh man, put me on the spot like that.
Well, I will say, and the good thing about our group too is Mark has picked up a lot of these, and Dan and Billy, and we dragged poor Kevin out of the Civil War into some of the Rev War stuff, where some of us drop off, drop. So we always seem to work together as a team and fill in. And so I pick on you, Mark, because you've done most of it.
I know. Well, that's what, yeah, you know, and one of the neat things, and yeah, people who watch these already, and if you don't know, you know, all of these you can find now in podcast form. So a lot of times, actually, you know, when I'm driving somewhere, and you know, now we have such a collection. We have, you know, over 70 episodes. That's, you know, over 70 hours of content on the podcast.
Content.
What?
Free content. 70 hours of free content.
This is why we're going to work the way.
Yes. This is why we'll never retire. We're working for free.
Okay, so this is I'll give you my favorite one, and this is because it actually helped me out perfectly. It was the Battle of Guilford Courthouse with Vanessa Smiley, Chris White, and I think Phil, you were on that too. You know, I did the reenactment this year in March, which is great. But you know, driving down there, I kind of wanted to you know, refresh my memory of, you know, how the campaign played out, what were the really interesting parts of it. So, you know, I just threw it on my phone, and while I was cruising down the highway, I was just listening, and it was a great way, you know, by the time I got down there, I was already kind of caught up and knew what I wanted to see when I went to the battlefield. So yeah, I'll say the Battle of Guilford Courthouse.
I'll go with one that you did, Mark, just a couple weeks ago in honor of St. Patrick's Day. You know, the inside story is we were all giving Mark a really hard time about, you know, trying to connect the Rev War to St. Patrick's Day and to Irish history, and it was a very illuminating revelry for me as someone that has not been into Rev War history as deeply as other historians are of the 18th century. It was a great presentation to be able to not only learn a little bit more, but also to, you know, zoom somebody in from Ireland for that. I mean, you know, that's freaking awesome. So that was one of my more recent favorites that we've done.
He's great too. He's excellent.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he was great, and I really enjoyed the aspect of that talk where he brought in the battlefield archaeology. Because that's something that, you know, as historians, all of us really rely on written records of what guys who were at battles, what they said. But
Right.
the physical record, you know, still exists on many of these battlefields, and being able to use that to help tell that story was pretty awesome. Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of looking back at all the Zooms we did. It's cool to see how we really developed, you know, the style of these Zooms, the format of them. And in the beginning, it was just basically this, you know, it was only us on here usually talking about a specific subject every Sunday, not every other Sunday, every Sunday we were doing something. And then eventually, you know, I guess we did this enough. We got enough people to actually enjoy what we were doing that we got to bring in outside people who weren't affiliated with us, not just, you know, historians from parks or historic sites, but authors too. And I will say probably the Zoom that I've listened to the most, like while I'm driving in my car on YouTube or on Spotify, definitely was Mark's 10 Crucial Days. I don't know how many that I listened to that, how many times I listened to that while I was prepping for the Trenton and Princeton tour last November. But then for me, I think the most interesting one that I did leading was with Jack Kelly, who's the author of the book Valcour. And the whole discussion was just on the end of the Canadian campaign in 1776, and then the Battle of Valcour Island, which in itself, I think Valcour is a fantastic book. Jack Kelly's a fantastic writer, and it was cool to actually hear him talk and discuss this period of the Revolution that is really overshadowed by what's going on near New York City, then what goes on near Trenton and Princeton. You know, the failure of that Canadian campaign, the end to it. Most people think that it just ends outside the walls of Quebec, December 31st, 1775, but it doesn't. It drags on until the next summer. And then after that, how it leads to Valcour Island and Arnold's defense of Lake Champlain. So I thought Jack Kelly was very great with that. And it is always cool to actually get a chance to meet these people. You know, it could be idols to you or just somebody whose work you really admire. And then this is really, you know, given us, and me personally, you know, an opportunity to become acquainted with some of these people and get the chance to talk to them and ask them questions. It's really a privilege.
You know, Billy, I would agree with you. I think back to 2 years ago, and an email came across from this group of guys, and hey, maybe we should start doing this Zoom thing. And I think most of us were like, "What's a Zoom?" So we have come a long way in 2 years. I would definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I would agree too. Being able to talk with kind of people you've read about but haven't met yet. I would say my talk with Dr. Peter Henriquez about George Washington was that was really cool because I consider his books on Washington some of the best that really kind of try to tease out who Washington was as a person. So. Just having an opportunity to sit down and ask him questions about Washington and his research.
You went twice. Not fair.
Mark's talked
Not
twice.
fair. It's twice.
This is why Mark's been on so many of them.
Yes, because Mark likes to talk.
I was jumping on. I was just saying how I agreed with him.
Well, now Phil can't use it
No,
right
actually, it
now.
wasn't even going to use.
I'm gonna jump in here with option C if I can. I'm not gonna take option A or B. But I'm just gonna say my introduction to Trenton and Princeton was through Hollywood, and we had a session on that talking about the crossing. But you think about, and I was part of that, so I can't pick that one. But I'm just going to pick all the ones that we did about Trenton and Princeton leading up to the tour that we did last November, because my introduction to Hollywood was thinking, watching The Crossing, which is a movie that certainly has its faults historically, thinking about it's such an underdog story. That the historical facts of it and how just really an incredible story it is. And again, my introduction being to it was Hollywood, and having watched several of the Zoom sessions about Trenton and Princeton and realizing how much of that is true in the sense of the American story was such an underdog story at that point in the war. And it's amazing what Washington and the Americans that were left were able to accomplish despite all of that.
Kevin, there is never a movie that is bad when you put Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain in it.
Yeah,
Why do
you
we have
all,
to-
you all know me.
No
you
Civil
all,
War.
you
Get
all
out
know
of
me
here.
with my sports teams. I'm all for underdog teams. I'm okay
They did one today.
All right, I'm going to jump in.
A hockey game in the basement. Yeah, congratulations.
Pirates won.
Oh,
I'm gonna-
in the basement.
I'm going to bring it back to the Rev War.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring it back to the Rev War. So the one of the
That's
interesting ones,
Yeah.
get Dan away from his love fest of Jeff Daniels.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
The one that I actually enjoyed the most is actually one that Rob did.
The one I did.
The one. Yeah, the one. No, one of the ones Rob did. The Godfather over here. It was with him. I did Rev War. It was with Kirby Smith and Drew Gruber, 1781 Yorktown campaign. Because so much about history is you put it like in these boxes, like, oh, it's Washington went across the Delaware, then he went to Valley Forge, then he went to Yorktown. But you don't realize all the stuff that went on before and how it affected, like the Battle of Green Spring, which is actually partly preserved by Colonial National Historical Park. And getting Kirby, who knows that like the back of his hand, or Mike Moore, who knows some of the other Spencer's Ordinary and the small little engagements, they kind of connected. That's what emerging is about, because, this happens throughout the eastern seaboard, so that connection and everything. And it's also, what's great is meeting some of these people through Zoom that, like, I think Mark or Bill just said about, these are guys who read about or read their books, like Henriquez, or now with Lender coming on. I mean, the Conway Cabal of the book is great if you haven't picked it up or read it. So it's like you get to meet some of these people virtually, and you realize too is, well, if you start to screw up, you can always pretend like the Zoom froze, so that way you're like, oh, sorry, and then he'll give yourself a minute. So
Now we know Phil's.
Now we know Phil's trick.
Yep.
The heck's that?
a balcony without headphones next to traffic when you live in South Florida.
And palm trees.
And palm trees, yeah.
Yeah.
2 years I've gone from palm trees to
55
Dead oak trees.
5-degree weather. So
Birmingham, Virginia.
Emerging Rev War will take you places. So
I would say I'll wrap up. I like and this is going to tie into Mark's passion of doing things on the anniversary, but doing Alamance and some of the other things that happened this past year that lead up to the war were really interesting. I didn't know a whole lot about Alamance, but Mark went down there, did a video from the site on the anniversary, the lead historian from the park on was really good. But also, since Mark went twice, I'll go twice. A year ago, tomorrow, we had Alexander Kane on from Lexington, who knows more about Lexington than anyone I ever met. Has a great book called Lexington 1775. He knows the history of all the men from Lexington on the green on the 19th of April. It's an excellent resource. It was a great talk with him. He's not just a great historian, but a great tour guy. He is a public historian. He does tours up there. So he does a really good job explaining the facts to people in a way that makes it engaging, which is always hard to do, but he did it very well. So, yeah, that's my two.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump on there and say yes. You
Third.
Mark takes 3. Yeah, he's got to up Rob here.
Gosh, man.
Three topics we can talk.
Anniversary is very, very cool. I would just add to that. Yeah, I one of the highlights for me too is being at the Boston Massacre site too. Exactly 250 years from the hour, and then we got a couple coming up that are going to be focused on the 250th. So in early June, we're going to have Stephen Park on, who wrote a book about the burning of the Gaspee up in Rhode Island, which is one of the lead ups that happened in 1772. So that's kind of how we're going to continue to follow these 250th anniversaries as we go along at your home for the 250th anniversary.
There it is. Mark had to say it. Dane did the Civil War bit, and Mark did the home for your 250th.
You can put your money on it. It's happening every time.
Well, what else does what else do people have coming up? I don't want to forget about our symposium too. We got a symposium coming up in a few months. It gives an opportunity for us to another in-person event. This will be, if you're in the Mid-Atlantic area, it's in Alexandria, Virginia.
September 24th. Yep. September 24th. It's $60 to attend. It'll be at the Lyceum, which is a historic building in Old Alexandria here in Northern Virginia, and we have some great topics. The theme is the impacts of the American Revolution on the international scene. So we're talking about the French. We'll be talking about some Russian czars. We'll be talking about John Adams and his role working with Europe. Good friend Scott Stroh is going to talk about George Mason and what he writes and how the words that Mason puts on paper are actually still used today, and as countries form their new governments, how this long-lasting impact of the revolution. We have military, we have social, we have political, we have it all covered. And it should be an exciting day in September. We will be in person. There's also a virtual option if you want to go that route, but I highly recommend you come in person, get a chance to hang out with us. We'll have an after party at Gadsby's Tavern, which was where George Washington celebrated his last birthday. We'll have a little happy hour out there. You get to hang out with us, hang out with other historians and other people that are interested in this topic. It's a great event. Alexandria is a great historic town. Has a lot of that, historical feeling to it. We did the symposium last year virtual, which was fun, but it's always more fun in person for us. So go to the blog. There's a link there to buy your tickets. $60, which is not bad considering what you're going to get for that. But it's a partnership with the city of Alexandria that a lot of us have friends that work there, and they're really supportive of what we've been doing. So looking forward to that.
It's the hometown of George Washington, so nothing beats that.
George Washington.
Fredericksburg would argue with you, but we'll do that in a different chat. That would be a good one.
Revelry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mark versus Rob. Here we go.
No. I'm not a Fredericksburg guy, but my friend Ann Darren, Scott Harris, and others in Fredericksburg would love to debate the hometown of Washington.
Well, yeah, we could get some, Alexandria versus Fredericksburg coming up. So.
Nova versus Nova. So also I want to put a plug because we have one guy who commented on this, and he's watched a lot of them. Robert Ryan, big War of 1812 guy. We do have some War of 1812 revelries coming up, so pay attention to that, Rob. There's also possibly down the pipeline in a few years potential to move the Emerging Revolutionary War series into the War of 1812. So stay tuned, but just wanted to address that comment. And there will be, if you check our Facebook site, we have all the revelries lined up, I think, through August right now.
Yep.
So there will be a few War of 1812 because as we pull Kevin out of that other war more often, because I don't want to say that word, we're pulling him into the War of 1812 because he's a native of upstate New York, which they had a few actions up there.
Yeah.
I was actually at Fort McHenry yesterday, and the guy gave a good shout out to New York, saying most of the War of 1812 happened up there, but it was decided south of the Mason-Dixon line at Fort McHenry and New Orleans.
Right.
I was like, you know what? I like the way this guy talks. So,
I don't know about that, but we'll argue that.
But we'll debate. So War of
but-
1812 will be a topic that will be visited here shortly.
Yeah, so we'll have May 15th. We'll be talking about probably the most, I would say, besides Fort McHenry, the most famous battle of the War of 1812, which is the Battle of New Orleans.
Yeah.
Fought in January 15. We'll have Sean Michael Chick, who's a city guide in New Orleans, on talking about the Battle of New Orleans. So expanding our reaches into not just Emerging Revolutionary War, but Emerging Revolutionary War era, which, as we talked about, really extends from the French and Indian War all the way to the War of 1812. So we'll have more topics on that coming soon. And another ERW revelry in the process, talking about the Niagara campaigns as well, in Western New York and in Eastern Canada at that point, in the War of 1812.
But we have to get all the 1812 New York stuff out of the way before football season starts.
That's right.
Or Kevin will be jumping through tables like his friends in Buffalo. So we want
Hey,
to make
now you don't know what this will look like. I might go through a table.
we just want to get that out of the way before tables get broken.
Practice, that's right. Getting ready
Practice.
for football season. There we go.
Well, we did mention about books, so I guess it's a good time to plug in the Emerging Revolutionary War series. I said there might be books upcoming on the War of 1812. That's a few years down the road. Obviously, we've got the bus tour is going to look at the last two that are currently out right now. Billy Griffith's A Handsome Flogging, yours truly's The Winter that Won the War. We're going through the final touches right now on Unhappy Catastrophes, which we'll talk. Can't get away from New Jersey for some reason. Talk about Central New Jersey and the American Revolution
By Bert.
by Bert Tucker.
Yep.
Bert either.
Can't get away from Bert. I think he was just the part of the last revelry earlier this month.
Yep.
Not an April Fool's, but he was actually on one. We've also got, after that, we are going to go south because Mark Malloy will be talking about something else besides Trenton, Princeton, and Charleston. He has just returned from hopefully taking some photos that'll be in the book. Hopefully. I know he did a lot of videos, but I'm not sure how to put them on page 54 or page 75. But we'll try to embed videos.
That's the Kindle
The
edition.
Kindle edition.
Yeah.
Well, you all at home may recognize Mark as the 10 Crucial Days Trenton and Princeton guy, but for his upcoming project, there will be a new 10 Crucial Days that he is going to associate with the American Revolutionary War.
And then after that, we might stay in the Southern Theater for a little bit. So the guy beside me might actually be, I don't know.
Don't look at me.
Finishing a book. Now we're Mark Wilcox and I are doing a book on the Battle of Camden, and Mark has been done. Mark, if you watch this, kudos to you. You're 100% done. I'm close to being done. So that book will be out this year or early next year, depending on the print schedule. But it is totally in my court, so I want to take full responsibility for that.
Wilcox is so
Good man.
Mark
You
Wilcox.
got another one there too, Rob.
No, I don't. No other. Just
You got
Camden.
first Manassas?
Just Camden.
We're not talking about that other
I'm
war.
talking about the other war, Dan.
Mark Wilcox is such a great historian. Was so good about writing. I think he got his section done quicker than Gates got back to Hillsborough.
That's fast.
That is
That's
fast.
fast. And then we have Eric Sterner working on.
Oh yeah, then we go west. Eric Sterner, who's George Washington Clark, the Western theaters, which will get people into. If you don't know, there is a National Park Memorial associated with George Washington Clark in Vincennes. Also touching Kentucky because the Revolution will happen. We have a comment about Spain here, so that book will touch slightly on the Spanish involvement as well because I mean the Mississippi River. some of the actions between the Appalachians and the father of all waters. So we're going south and west in the next book series after we finish up with New Jersey and Burt Dunkley. So these books will be rolling out. The print schedule, hopefully, we're kicking back into gear. Ted Savas and his team are doing wonders to try to get these books out as quick as they can. Get copy editors, the paper in. We can get the photos and text written. So continue to check back on the blog as we provide updates on these books continue to roll out. And we'll also try to do some revelries with these authors so you know how to purchase and get your copies, maybe even a few signed ones.
Well, don't forget, too, you also have Long Range, Chris White, Guilford Courthouse.
We got Chris White, who was on a great Guilford Courthouse one.
Chris Mikowski doing Adams and Jefferson.
Yeah,
And then Drew and Kate Gruber are looking at the Yorktown campaign, not on the actual battle or siege of, but
we'll get you to
all the
Yorktown.
actions that we talked about in our revelry earlier this year. So we have the next couple of years planned out, and like Phil said, probably a War of 1812 book coming out somewhere in that on New Orleans. So what's that? What's
Well,
on New Orleans?
Niagara campaign, baby.
Niagara campaign.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
Well, we got a few comments from people excited about us going south. I think it's really important. I think that especially in the Revolutionary War, it's often overlooked, and so I think it's I'm excited about that. And yeah, like Phil mentioned, and as many of you saw, I was just down in Charleston, South Carolina for a few days, getting pictures for the book. So
Was it 10 crucial days that you were down there in South Carolina?
Yes, no, it was only 4 crucial days.
Very crucial days.
But it was, it definitely renewed my excitement for the book. It's, it was just a fantastic. I mean, there is no bad trip to Charleston, South Carolina. So it being such a tourist destination, I think, it's going to be great for people who are going on vacation or visiting that area who have an interest in the Revolutionary War. It'll be a quick volume that they can kind of get an overview of everything that happened in that area and then direct them to a lot of these sites, many of them right, downtown, but some of them further afield if they want to be able to travel a little more and dig into some of those more off the beaten path sites. But yeah, no. So I think the book series is, like I said, I think it's one of the neat things about this group. It gives us an opportunity to get this, information and these stories out to a really large audience. So I'm excited about all these different ones coming up.
And I'm going to follow up with another comment about the book series and something that I've done with each of the ERW books now that a lot of folks may not even think about. The great thing about the ERW series is they're really good primers on their topics to get you familiar with all the names, places, and events that are going on. And because of the length that they are, one of the things I've done with the ERW books, and I challenge you all to do as well, is I like to call it, instead of doing like an in-time battlefield walk, if I can't be there for the actual anniversary, I do a real-time reading of the ERW book. So, on the anniversary of those 10 crucial days, I've read Mark's book on each one of those days. Billy's Monmouth book, I read in time every year. So it's a great thing to do. Pick up the books if you haven't done it, to be able to read in time as those events happen and mark an anniversary from your house. So another way to read the ERW series.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping. I don't know if it's not under contract yet, but for future projects, hoping to work on is by this fall, winter, one on Saratoga campaign, leading up to the battle, not the battle itself, and then eventually I've said that going to do one on Benedict Arnold as a history and tour guide to his life in military service, and then that will be my magnum opus. I'll retire and then ride off into the sunset and live off royalties for the rest of my life.
People love Benedict Arnold these days, Billy. He's in.
I know.
Now he's in.
All these people that everyone says they hate, they love him. So I'm a sucker for it too.
Yeah, it's like the Yankees. Everyone hates them, but they make the money.
Yep.
It's true.
And the other, when you're talking about like reading in real time, that's the other thing that I love about like the tour sections in the books, and being able to, when I'm at the site, and I was doing it, when I was in Charleston, because I've already written, most of the books. So it's like, I would just take my tour sections and I would read those at the different buildings where I was at, because, I have it written down. I can, I don't have to remember it. It's written right there. And,
Right.
it's kind of neat to stand in the space, read about the history, and the only thing I always say this when I'm at a site, the only thing that separates us from those men who were fighting is time. It's the only thing. So you're standing on the same ground that you're standing at. It's pretty cool.
Speaking on standing on that same ground, Mark, one of my highlights of the year from ERW was watching you from Guilford Courthouse almost bite it as a tree falls near you. That was.
We almost lost Mark.
We almost lost Mark this year.
And his wife would have lost a husband and somewhat caring father, and it would have been a vacant chair. And,
that's the wrong war. Don't go in the vacant chair.
For honor, though, Mark, we would have kept going.
The next 2 ERW books would have been dedicated to Mark, and
then we'd move on. Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy, though.
That was crazy.
Hey, we're willing to put our lives on the line to get audience.
And really quick, I know we're getting to our hour here, and I will say, not to have to go around the room again, but one of our best. We won't, because Mark will just dominate it. But
he'll give you 5 examples instead of 1.
Right. One of the best videos, like we like to go to, like as Mark did and Phil did, and actually Kevin did one out west, which was really cool, is to do videos from these places. And we went on a tour with John Michael Moore and did Gloucester and the Battle of the Hook, which was, I've been there before, but not to all the places that we went to, and doing videos from there was a lot of fun, because I don't think anyone else is doing that. I think when we have the opportunity to do something new, and where, if you go to Battle of the Hook, you go to Gloucester, Virginia, you want to read about Tarleton, they're doing the Yorktown campaign, you Google that, we pop up, Phil drops a cigar, lights the porch on fire, sorry about that.
5-second roll.
5-second roll is backhand. But you can pull that up, and if you go there, you can use those videos to help you kind of see those places, which the book is awesome too, but sometimes seeing it visually through a video is helpful. I think doing North Point, which I've never been in North Point, that was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
So, and also too, on the videos, they're on Facebook as well, but sometimes, trying to get to the page on your app, etc. Not only do these revelries that we do go onto our YouTube page, but what I'll do is get all our videos from the field, and I'll put them on YouTube, and I'll put them on a channel on our channel in a playlist called ERW in the Field, and I'll label them. So that way you can go right to them. You can see which ones were on the field, the title, and go right to that video. Because going to the app on Facebook, clicking our page, clicking the video, going to that. So if you are at YouTube, we're trying to make it accessible as possible. Whatever app you prefer to watch your videos on, they go. So we have it also broken down, the revelries on YouTube, like these ones, but I've also separated the author interview ones, because I feel like sometimes people just want to go, I want to see if this book is appropriate for someone on your shopping list. That way you can go right to that and see this free list on our Emerging Revolutionary War YouTube page. The revelries, the ERW in the Field, and the author interviews. So just again, to make it as accessible as possible for you to get there.
Now Mark gets quiet.
Yeah. Wrap this up.
So
Mark, there's one thing we have to do better the next year, gentlemen, and ladies, Vanessa and Kate, if you guys are watching with us, we have to blog more. I think we've all agreed internally. We do great with our chats every other week. We do great with our videos. We do great with some social media posts, but our blogging, we have to be honest with ourselves here. Our blogging has not been up to snuff. as far as the content. We haven't put a lot out. So
I'm gonna disagree with you there. I think some of the quality stuff that
though, needs to be more. Needs to be more blog posts. You just share, Mark. You just share posts from 5 years ago all the time. We gotta do more. We gotta do more because we are doing a lot of research. All these, I don't know when you're watching and you read about or researching these topics, we just forget. We put them on videos, we put them in books. We just gotta put them on the blog. Yeah. So I think that's something we need to commit to better next year. Is at least getting a lot more blog posts up. It doesn't have to be a lot, Mark. I'm not saying we reduce quality, but we have to do quality and quantity. So, yes, Mark, but they're excellent. I agree with you. They are all excellent, but we just got to do more of them. More recent, not 5 years ago, but recent.
No. It's just this past December. So what was that? 4 months ago.
That's recent for Mark. That's very recent.
I mean, this stuff really, really interesting. I mean, this was finding old newspaper accounts of reenacting the battles at Trenton and Princeton for the centennial. I mean, some of that stuff is, I mean, that's really interesting. And finding photographs from early sham battles, recreating that. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's also important. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff takes time and energy, and but yeah, I don't want we won't let the quality of our work suffer either. But yes, it's always more content for sure.
When you take those old posts from 5 years ago, you're supposed to add a few more extra sentences to it, so then you could label it as the revised and expanded version.
Right.
Well, and this is where we have so much content so far, and I hope our audience shares our stuff, whether it's to their own social media feeds or sharing them with friends or family, or emailing them to folks because we have a lot of quality content on there. And yeah, getting the word out about a lot of the stuff we're doing is always helpful. So we definitely appreciate all you followers and viewers who share our materials. It means a lot to us because it gets gets the hard work we're doing. And this is, it's a lot of work, whether it's doing these videos, whether it's traveling to these sites, whether it's writing books, whether it's writing blog posts, being able to share that stuff with more and more people is greatly appreciated by all of us. All right. Well, any other final thoughts on 2 years of Rev War Revelries, folks?
Just so we hope you'll keep tuning in on Sunday nights. Keep reading on the blog. We've got a number of great ERW books coming out. We hope that you will pick those up and come out to an event with us, a bus tour, our symposium, chat with us, get your book signed. We're really appreciative of the audience for the last 2 years, and hopefully we've been able to bring some fresh and engaging stories of the American Revolutionary War era to you.
Yeah. Thank you, audience. If people weren't watching these things, we wouldn't be doing them. That's for sure. So we really appreciate everybody taking time, especially today. Happy Easter to all of you at home. Thank you for taking a little time out of your holiday to catch up with us, and keep following what we're doing. Keep sharing it. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.